What's up, y'all? Back again, Mr. Totem. And back again with another Veteranos Corner. I get a lot of questions, right? Since I've been letting out some of these Veteranos Corners, I get a lot of questions, and some of the questions I get are pretty interesting. And one of the ones that came in was, why do old school writers do not update their style? That's a good question. That's a very good question. You know what's funny is that in certain realms, I'm considered an old school writer. Because I started writing in the late 80s and what do you call early 90s. And, you know, ever since then, all the way to now, I've constantly progressed. And the reason why I constantly progressed was my motivations are probably different than, you know, most old school writers. You know, old school writers, or just writers in general, have their different reasons for why they do what they do in this game, in this art form, in this culture, if you want to call it that. My motivations and stuff like that, and this is just mine for my own, didn't have anything to do with anything pertaining to a community or being accepted. Don't get me wrong, those things I wanted also, you know, just like anybody. They want to be accepted, they want to be part of a community or whatever. That was in the peripheral. Realistically, I had found that I wanted to express myself with this particular art form, art medium, or whatever you want to call it, if you want to call that. I found that this medium was exactly what I needed at the time I started for expressing how I felt in my family, in my neighborhood, and in my life as trying to find out who I was, self-identity. So the pursuit of the identity was the motivating factor. And I always had a chip on my shoulder when I was young, feeling not good enough. I always felt like I wasn't good enough, whether it be around, you know, kids in my neighborhood, whether it be, you know, in my own household, you know, the way that my parents treated me and stuff like that. I always felt like I wasn't enough. And even to this day, I still feel a bit like that. And of course, I am enough. And but I found that graffiti gave me what I needed to express myself and to prove to myself, because there was so much adversity from these older writers that were, you know, trying to stop me and trying to, you know, who's this guy, you know, the young Turk showing up. And you know, I wasn't particularly, you know, I grew up in a Spanish and black neighborhood, and, you know, I'm not Spanish, you know, and I'm not black. And, you know, being that they have their own belief and ways and cultures, I had to adhere to some of it. But for the most part, I had to prove myself. And what happens is, during the process of proving yourself, you find that your particular talent becomes like a battering ram for breaking into cultures that aren't particularly yours inherently. You know, I found myself exerting my will way more often because of graph, because of trying to prove, like, because at that time, you know, we're saying like hip hop was something special at that time. You know, it was still very young. So a lot of these people are trying their damnedest to, you know, showcase that, you know, I'm the real one. I got the authentic craft. I got the style. I got all that. And Me, myself, I have found that for me to be effective, I have to have my own style. So I had to dig deep into my own psyche. Now, how does that pertain to where, fast forward to now, and you know, I'm one of the best. How does that pertain to these older riders now, right? Well, you know, the thing is about other people when they come up in the game, right? Their motivations are maybe they wanted to be accepted and all this kind of stuff, but maybe, you know, maybe they already were accepted. And maybe this was that certain something that put a shimmer and a glimmer on them around a whole bunch of people that they're around. Barring from the obvious reasons why is, of course, you know, a good portion of them got lazy. And that's pretty easily understood for a lot of people if you think about it. Anyone could get lazy, talented or not. But here's the other thing is the talent. Talent, maybe some of them really just didn't really have that much artistic talent. And they were lucky enough to get in at a time where the art form was young. They were able to establish themselves. They were able to capture a look. You know, it's something to be said about an old school rider that just captures how it looks to do a piece that looks like, man, this is very much the 80s. Think of the Chrome Angels and stuff like that, like Bando and Mode 2 and them. Like the way that their stuff looks, they can do it now and it looks freaking awesome. It doesn't need to be all rendered out and three-dimensional and all this kind of stuff like that with glitz and glam. So you have to think like, all right, maybe they just didn't have a reason to go any farther than what they pulled off at that time because they really had it tight. So, you know, lacking the talent would more than likely cause them to feel underwhelmed, and it could even be a little bit more polarizing for anyone who's been looking at them, thinking, "Oh man, like you ain't updated your stuff, man. You ain't really got the juice like that." They might have thought you had the juice back in the 80s, but now, like you're looking kind of redundant. But that's probably a few big reasons right there. Some guys, they just don't have the courage to try something new. That's something that either could be part of the laziness or it could be lack of the encouraging feeling because you have talent and you can make something look kind of questionable, make it look good. But once you're kind of in your comfort zone, maybe they just likely they just thought to themselves like, whoa, this is way too weird for me. I'm afraid. They don't want to say that. I'm afraid. I don't think I'm going to try this new technique that I saw someone do. Now, there was a time in the 90s where Scene was painting with Virus and stuff like that, and with Cess a lot, and he would try some of the techniques that they were doing. And he's an example of one of the old schoolers that actually adopted some of the newer techniques and produced some pretty incredible and impressive Scene pieces back then. And this is 97, 98. I remember because I was there. And that's something that is to be said for sure about what type of courage it takes to be able to do a piece that literally is something that you don't normally do. Now, if you have somebody with you that they themselves have that forward movement, that modern take, but they still have that classic look and it works well with you. Someone like Virus did with Scene and Cess, and their productions came out sick. And that's one of the things right there, like maybe they needed a helping hand to get past being afraid to try something new, and that in itself is probably my guess if I was to surmise what might be. And another big one is actually having space. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, Yes, you have to spend a lot of time in the black books to get good at your pieces, but also to elevate. I think a lot of them spent a lot of time in black books, but they didn't spend a lot of time transferring that black book up onto the wall. And that in itself is going to stop you. That's going to be an issue, because there's some guys I know that live in big cities where the cities don't have easy paintable spots where you can just spend all week, rocking a deep dish burner. I mean, that is a blessing to have a week's worth of time in front of a wall. Let's just say 2 to 3 days, right? They just don't have space like that. Maybe that has a bunch of people around there who just don't care and rag their stuff and stuff like that. You can call them toys or whatever you want to call them. So they don't feel comfortable to be able to go to a spot and just rock a burner. They just don't have those things, and that in itself could discourage them to be like, well, why would I try something new when I'm happy with what I've already been doing? And also, too, every time I go out there and I paint and I try to have a good time, someone ruins it. The spot is too packed or crazy, and I just don't feel comfortable because, Lord, I tell you, when you're older, you really want to be relaxed when you actually get out there and paint. It's not like when you're young when you don't really care. You're like, I just want to get up and get my name up and do something dope. Now it's like, man, every single chance I get to go out there and paint, it's a blessing. So I want to make it count. I want to enjoy it. So that's likely a thing too. And then finally, some of the guys just don't have the resources. They just don't have, some guys, they work regular jobs. They may be a legend in the graffiti community, but shoot, I've went to the grocery store and just because they heard my name, they didn't give me an extra plastic bag. I'm just saying that when you have the resources or someone at least to flow you some paint or even sponsor you or stuff like that, then you actually are more encouraged to go out there and paint way more burners than you probably would if you were literally working kind of, an elbow to elbow job where, you're paycheck to paycheck and you really can't afford to spend a lot of money on a bunch of different colors that are going to make this incredible piece. And, and realistically, a lot of that stuff is going to make a lot of these guys feel not very legendly. And that's another thing in itself is some of these guys, they're really, really good and dope old school writers, but legend maybe not the term for them. But not talking about that at this particular time. I'm going to touch on that one next time. But, when you don't have the resources, that's a real, real big obstacle to go over. So, hey. What they didn't think was going to happen was, okay, I'm going to get old. I have to admit myself, I didn't think I was going to get older, And a lot of these guys, I think what they did was, well, it worked in, 1997 or worked in 1989 or something like that. So, it's going to work in 2025. Yes, to a degree, but no. Also no. Okay, that's classic. You look at that, I don't want to say any old folks' names, any older writers' names, because I don't want to pick on them. I don't want to point anyone out because I got love for all of the older writers and stuff. Some of them did not progress, and some of them didn't need to progress. But, yeah, if you compare it to 2025, they don't, their stuff, it's like they're doing the same old thing. But then again, sometimes people want to hear the Rolling Stones do, their famous song. Or some people want to hear, LL Cool J do the famous song. They don't want to hear his new rap. Like, you may listen to LL's new rap and you'll be like, man, I like that. But, it's because, that stuff worked back then, and his effectiveness was from back then. Now he's just an older dude that's trying to maintain relevance, and it's difficult. It's got to be real difficult. You know what I'm saying? For someone like LL. You know what I'm saying? In writing, it's the same way. So you got these old guys, and some would say stuck in their ways. Yeah, you could say stuck in their ways, but also you can't knock the original formula. You can't knock. If Dondi was alive and was doing exactly what Dondi did from back in the days now, you would still think it was fresh. It's just everyone now hides inside all these, you know, funky colors and does all these, you know, beautiful effects, and I'm gonna make it look like a diamond or whatever. I'm gonna make it look smoky, whatever you wanna do on your special effects on your piece. The structure is the most important piece, right? So Dondi is an example of someone who has masterful structure, and it doesn't matter if this is 1981 to 2021, you know, it deserves to be respected to this point. So if you have, you know, an opinion on some of these older guys, right, what do you really want to see, right? Let me ask you, do you want to see seen, you know, doing some of the stuff like some of these guys is doing, you know, where they're taking a fat cap and just wiggling it all over the place, and, you know, I'm putting all these silly straws like that and then painting with that? Is that what you want to see? You know, do you want to see, you know, scheme, you know, put stencil fills and stuff in his pieces and stuff like that? What everyone's doing, oh, let me break out the tape and all this kind of stuff like that because it's ultra sharp and all this. Like, is that what you really want to see? Or some of these old guys, do you have to just kind of say, well, you know, no need to progress. That's, you know, that's that guy, you know, he's legit than a mother. Like, I don't need to see an updated Can 2 piece, you know? I don't need to see a 3D Can 2 piece. Like, okay, sure, one would be tight, one, okay? 2, 3, you know, all right, fine. But then, like, progressing to this whole thing like that, I'm not sure from those particular ones who become like DNA to style, I don't know if we really need that, you know what I'm saying? So when you see some of these veteran writers, some of the ones that are truly like, the ones that they talk about like masters of style, some of them don't really need to be out there trying to do the newest, hottest thing, right? Do I think it would help them to be better artists? Yes. I think it's nice, like what Seth does, where he, you know, he does these themes and stuff like that, similar to what I do, but like he does that. But when he goes out and he paints, he does his pieces, right? Sometimes he does a theme like aspect in a corner or whatever, but he doesn't really do like what he does in his drawing table. And I think that's actually a good thing because essentially it challenges him to try to update his ability to draw, his artistic strengths, you see. And I think that's something that for an older guy, being an older guy myself, was the whole pursuit of why I did what I did when I changed my style up. You know, I still, you know, keep my mechanical battle serif as my signature style. That's my technique. But the body style and all my, you know, different like variations of style, all of that stuff is more or less to challenge myself. You know, really to challenge myself. So do you think that, nah, that's not enough? Do you think that you really need to see, you know, Blade do a 3D piece? You know, like, do you really need to, if that, okay, do you want to see all that kind of stuff? Write it in the comments. Maybe it'd probably be something interesting. I don't know. Like I'm kind of on the fence. I could go either way when it comes to that particular stuff. But I do really believe that when I see these older guys try to execute something newer, it really comes off similar to how that LL Cool J album from 2024 or something like that drop. And, you know, there are people who are going to like it. Don't get me wrong. I like it. You know, I don't mind hearing new music from him and stuff like that. But there are guys that when you hear it, you go, okay, like I like that, but I don't like that new beat you're on. Like I know, yeah, that sounds good if, you know, this, whatever artist is on it, but, you know, I don't think that you sound good on it. Like when I hear Nas, I love Nas. He's my favorite, but I don't want to hear him on a trap beat, you know, and I'm from ATL. Like, I just don't want to hear him like that. And yeah, he can lace it, but that's how it is. Like if you see, you know, if you see some of these legendary riders do that, man, sometimes it kind of falls short. And sometimes you just kind of have to stay in the pocket. But, you know, that's just my opinion. Again, you know, this is coming from a dude who, for his motivations, is totally different than others. And it's just my opinion. I'm not the law, you know what I'm saying? But that's why I think older riders don't change it up, you know what I'm saying? Plus, they get the accolades from a lot of these younger dudes, and that's enough for them. Or they're able to sell their little canvases and stuff doing the same old, and that's fine too. I respect that and love that too. So yeah, I mean, you know, say what you think. Look and comment down below, you know, do all that kind of stuff. You know, if you think it's a reasoning that's different than what I see, type it down below. I want to see what you got to say, you know, but that's it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, another one from Mr. Totem from Veterano's Corner, you know. Check me out later, all right? Peace.